A sunny afternoon in the park should have been nothing more than ice cream, football, and the kind of laughter that made life feel whole again. Naomi Walker sat on a weathered wooden bench, the sun warm on her shoulders, her heart swelling as she watched her two boys, Ethan and Malik, race across the open field. Their ice cream cones had melted into sticky trails down their small fingers, and their giggles rose above the distant splash of the fountain. For a moment, Naomi let herself forget the grind of FBI reports and endless hours at her desk. For a moment, she was just Mom. "Catch Mom!" Ethan shouted, his dark eyes flashing with mischief as he hurled the football toward her. The throw wobbled, and Naomi lunged with exaggerated effort, nearly toppling off the bench. Both boys howled with laughter. "See? Told you she's too serious to be any good at football," Ethan teased, grinning wide. Malik, always quick to defend her, shook his head fiercely. "No way. Mom's good at everything. She's just pretending." Naomi raised an eyebrow, brushing crumbs from her jeans as she stood. "Oh, am I? Too serious, huh? Maybe I should show you both how it's really done." She launched the football in a perfect spiral that sailed past Ethan's hands, his jaw dropping as it landed yards behind him. "No fair," Ethan groaned, sprinting after the ball. "You've been holding out on us." Malik clapped his hands in delight. "Do it again, Mom." For once, the weight of Naomi's responsibilities slipped away. No badge to carry, no courtroom testimony to prepare, no suspects to interrogate. Just her and her boys, running through grass that shimmered green in the afternoon sun. She jogged toward them, teasing, "Ice cream and football. You two really are spoiled." "We're not spoiled," Ethan protested, though his smile betrayed him. His ever-present notebook dangled from his pocket, the pages filled with sketches of superheroes, landscapes, and the occasional portrait of his mother in her work blazer. But 20 feet away, at a picnic table under a sycamore tree, a white couple sat watching. The woman's lips tightened the moment Naomi arrived at the park. Her gaze didn't waver, sharp and disapproving, as if the sight of a black mother laughing with her children disturbed the peace. Naomi noticed. She always noticed. Years of FBI training had sharpened her instincts too finely to ignore. The woman leaned toward her husband, whispering with a frown. Then, with a glance at Naomi and the boys, she pulled out her phone. Her voice carried just enough for Naomi to catch fragments. "Suspicious woman. Watching everyone. Those boys don't even look like hers." Ethan's shoulders tensed. He'd heard. His sketching hand froze mid-stroke. Naomi's heart ached at how quickly joy could be stolen from her son's face. She crouched, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Eyes on me, baby. We're here to have fun, remember?" Malik tugged her sleeve, still blissfully unaware. "Tag, Mom! Can we play tag now?" Naomi forced brightness into her voice. "Of course, sweet pea. But don't say I didn't warn you. I'm fast." They darted across the grass, Naomi deliberately letting Malik stay just ahead, his giggles ringing out. But the woman's whispers grew more urgent. "Doesn't look right. Watching the children too closely." Ethan edged closer to his mother, seeking the safety of her presence. Naomi hugged him quickly, whispering, "We belong here just as much as anyone else." Then came the crunch of tires on gravel. Naomi's trained eye caught the patrol car creeping into the parking lot, its white and blue paint glinting in the sunlight. The officers inside scanned the park deliberately, eyes narrowing as they settled on her. Caleb, no. Malik ran back to her side, his small face uncertain. "Mom? It's okay," Naomi murmured, pulling both boys close. "Stay right here with me." The patrol car stopped. Two officers emerged, Officer Grant, tall and stiff, adjusting his belt with a little too much force, and his partner close behind. They approached in textbook formation, steps measured, tone already sharpened with intimidation. "Afternoon, ma'am," Grant said. voice professionally cold. We got a call about suspicious activity. Mind if we ask a few questions? Naomi straightened, one hand resting on each boy's shoulder. No suspicious activity here. Officers, just enjoying the park with my children. Grant's eyes narrowed. We received a report about a woman possibly with kidnapped children. Protocol requires us to investigate. He crouched slightly, turning to Ethan and Malik with exaggerated friendliness. Hey there. Boy, this lady your mom? Do you know her full name? Ethan pressed closer against Naomi's side. His voice shook, but he answered clearly. Of course she's our mom. Her name is Dr. Naomi Walker, and she catches bad guys, Malik added quickly, proud and protective. Grant ignored him. Ma'am, I'll need to see some identification. Naomi's jaw tightened. These are my children. I'd like to know why we're being harassed in a public park. No one's harassing anyone, the partner interjected. We're just following up on a concerned citizen's report. He gestured toward the picnic table. The woman looked away quickly, feigning disinterest, but Naomi caught the small, satisfied smirk tugging her lips. A crowd had started to gather. Phones lifted, recording. Whispers rippled through the air. They were just playing football. Grant's eyes shifted to Naomi's SUV parked nearby. That vehicle matches the description of one involved in thefts. We'll need your registration, along with your ID. That's a lie, Naomi replied evenly. You're fishing, and you're doing it in front of my children. Grant's jaw flexed. Ma'am, produce your ID now, or we'll have to take this downtown. Naomi breathed steadily. She needed to end this before it scarred her boys further. Fine. My ID is in my bag. I'm reaching for it now. She telegraphed her movement clearly, hand moving toward her purse. But in a flash, Grant's hand shot out, clamping onto her wrist with bruising force. The world shifted. Training took over. Naomi twisted her arm, breaking his grip in a heartbeat, stance widening as she shoved her boys behind her. Her voice, no longer gentle mother but commanding agent, rang across the park. Do not put your hands on me. Grant stumbled back, reaching instinctively toward his weapon. The crowd gasped. Phones raised higher. Children stopped playing. Even the woman at the picnic table stood frozen, mouth ajar. Back away from my children, Naomi ordered, her voice thunderous with authority earned from years in the bureau. Now! The partner's hand went for his radio, but Naomi's words sliced through the tension. Before you make that call, you should know exactly who you're dealing with. Every mistake you've made is on record, witnessed, documented, filmed. Ethan and Malik stared wide-eyed. Their mother, the same woman who bought them ice cream, who tucked them in every night, was suddenly someone else entirely. A protector, a force, a warrior. Ma'am, you need to, Grant began. No, Officer Grant, Naomi cut him off. You need to think very carefully about your next move, because this situation is about to become much more complicated than a false report at a park. The air snapped taut as a wire. Both officers lunged. And Naomi Walker, mother and FBI agent, showed the world exactly who she was. Time slowed as the two officers lunged forward. To the onlookers, it looked like chaos. Two armed men closing in on a mother. But inside Naomi Walker's mind, training kicked in like a switch. She sidestepped Grant's reach, seized his wrist, and with fluid precision used his own momentum to send him sprawling past her. His taser clattered onto the grass. Stay back, boys! Naomi's command rang out, sharp and steady. Ethan pulled Malik behind him, both retreating just as she drilled them to do at home. The partner officer charged, baton raised high. Naomi pivoted low, swept his legs out, and he hit the ground with a bone-rattling thud. The crowd gasped, dozens of phones now recording every second. Grant scrambled up, red with rage. His hand went to his gun. The sight made Naomi's stomach twist. Her children were feet away, but instinct overrode fear. She closed the distance, driving her elbow into his solar plexus before his fingers touched the holster. He collapsed with a choking grunt. Naomi spun, grabbing his arm, and executed a flawless hip throw that left him flat on his back. "Mom!" Ethan's voice cracked, torn between terror and awe. "It's okay. Safe distance. Remember." Naomi never broke focus, her body flowing through combat like choreography. The second officer swung wildly. She trapped the baton against her forearm, twisted, and the weapon flew free. A sharp jab to his throat left him gagging, and a sweep of his knee drove him back to the ground. The park erupted in shouts. "Get them, sis!" One voice called. Others murmured disbelief, an unarmed mother dismantling two trained officers in seconds. Naomi stood firm, Grant pinned beneath her knee, the other officer groaning in the grass. Phones captured it all, her calm authority, her controlled power, her sons watching wide-eyed. Sirens wailed in the distance. Reinforcements. Naomi raised her voice, projecting over the chaos. "Keep recording. Don't stop. The truth needs witnesses." 3 more patrol cars screeched into the lot, lights flashing. Backup officers poured out, weapons drawn, shouting contradictory orders. The crowd roared in protest. Phones held like shields. Naomi released her hold slowly, standing tall with hands visible. With deliberate calm, she reached into her pocket, pulled out her FBI badge, and held it high. "I am Special Agent Dr. Naomi Walker, Federal Bureau of Investigation," she declared, her voice steady as steel. "And these officers just committed multiple violations of federal law in front of dozens of witnesses." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "That's why she moved like that. She's FBI." The backup officers hesitated, their weapons lowering slightly as recognition dawned. But not everyone accepted the shift. Grant staggered to his feet, face twisted with fury. "She attacked us," he croaked. "Badge or no badge, she assaulted police officers." "That's a lie," Malik shouted, his small fists clenched. Naomi placed a steadying hand on his shoulder without taking her eyes off the crowd of armed men. "You initiated contact," Naomi said firmly. "The videos will prove it. Every single angle is documented." The sergeant in charge, gray at the temples, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we'll need to verify that badge." "Of course." Naomi handed her credentials with precise calm. "Contact the FBI field office. They'll confirm my identity." The sergeant examined the badge, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. But before balance could tip in Naomi's favor, a new voice cut through the tension. "Officers, are you injured?" Captain Douglas Pierce had arrived. His reputation preceded him, known for shielding his men no matter the cost. He barely looked at Naomi's badge before turning to Grant and his partner. "She attacked us." "Captain," Grant blurted, "we responded to a suspicious person call, and she became violent." Pierce turned cold eyes on Naomi. "Agent Walker, if that's who you are, we'll need to investigate. Assaulting officers is a serious offense." "Someone." "Your officers harassed me and my children without cause," Naomi replied, her tone steady, unflinching. "They escalated to violence. Everything is on video." But Pierce wasn't listening. He moved among his men, whispering. Naomi watched their postures shift. Hesitant uncertainty hardened into hostility. A new narrative was being forged right before her eyes. The truth was already being twisted. Ethan tugged her sleeve, voice trembling. "Mom, are we in trouble?" Naomi pulled both boys close, her gaze locked on the captain. "No, baby, we haven't done anything wrong. But this fight isn't over." The crowd grew louder, chants mixing with shouted demands. Phones stayed trained on the scene, red lights blinking like stars. Naomi stood tall, her boys at her side, as Pierce ended his whispered call and turned back, his face carved with malice. This was no longer about one afternoon in the park. It was about power, corruption, and a system determined to break her. And Naomi Walker knew, with every beat of her heart, that the storm had only just begun. The drive home felt heavier than any surveillance mission Naomi Walker had ever run. Her SUV hummed along quiet suburban streets, but her eyes flicked constantly to the rearview mirror. She caught shadows where there shouldn't be any, convinced each slow-moving car could be the first sign of retaliation. Ethan sat in the back seat sketching furiously, his pencil scratching across paper. Malik leaned against the window, uncharacteristically quiet, his small hand clutching his brother's sleeve. "Mom?" Ethan broke the silence, his voice trembling despite his effort to sound calm. "Are they going to arrest you?" Naomi gripped the wheel tighter, forcing her voice steady. "No, baby, I didn't do anything wrong, and everything that happened is on video. The truth will come out." Malik's voice was smaller, a whisper meant only for her. "But what if they lie?" Her chest ached. She wanted to shield them, but there was no room for sugarcoating. "Then we fight back with the truth," she said, more firmly than she felt. "That's why I do what I do. That's why I wear the badge." But by the time she pulled into their driveway, the badge at her hip felt less like a shield and more like a target. Inside, the house felt wrong, too quiet, like the air itself had been disturbed. Naomi went room to room, checking locks, drawing curtains, listening for unfamiliar creaks in the floorboards. Upstairs, the boys brushed their teeth in silence. She heard their whispered conversation, their young voices heavy with fear. What if the mean cops come here? Mom won't let them. But still, Naomi's chest tightened. Her son shouldn't have to think this way. They should be arguing about cartoons, not strategizing against police harassment. When she tucked them in, Ethan clutched his sketchbook to his chest. The latest drawing showed her standing tall, arms wide, shielding him and Malik like a superhero. His voice cracked as he said, "Mom, I'm proud of you for not letting them push us around." Naomi kissed his forehead, whispering back, "I'm proud of you too. You were so brave today." Down the hall, Malik curled up under his blanket, his stuffed elephant hugged tight. His eyes searched hers. "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" "Of course," Naomi said, sitting on the edge of his bed, stroking his curls. "I was really scared when they grabbed you," Malik admitted. "But then you weren't scared at all." Naomi's voice softened. "I was scared, boss baby. But courage means standing tall even when you're afraid." His small arms clung to her tighter. "I love you, Mom. I love you more than anything," she whispered, holding him until his breathing steadied into sleep. Only then did Naomi slip downstairs to her office. She opened her laptop, the glow washing over her tired face, fingers flying across the keys. She began documenting the entire incident with clinical precision. The initial approach, Grant's words, the tactical positioning, the bruise forming on her wrist where he'd grabbed her. Years of FBI reporting taught her that details could save or sink cases. Her phone buzzed. A name flashed across the screen. Rachel Torres. Naomi answered immediately. "Rachel? Are you somewhere private?" Rachel's whisper was sharp, urgent. Naomi shut her office door. "I am now. What's wrong?" "I've been hearing chatter through channels," Rachel said. "Naomi, they're not just angry. They're mobilizing. They want you discredited, buried." Naomi's knuckles whitened around the phone. She'd known retaliation was inevitable, but hearing it confirmed made her blood run cold. What exactly are they planning? Leaking memos, twisting your record, painting you unstable, standard smear campaign, but aggressive. And Naomi, watch your back. They won't stop at paperwork. Naomi exhaled slowly, forcing her mind into combat clarity. "Thanks for the warning. I'll prepare." When dawn broke, Naomi was already at her kitchen table, coffee steaming beside her, writing furiously. But this time she wasn't just recording. She was preparing a counterattack. By 9 enemy. She was seated across from Monica Harris, the civil rights attorney she trusted more than most family. Monica adjusted her glasses. flipping through Naomi's files. I've seen the videos. 6 different angles. It's damning for them, but we'll need more. Service record, prior complaints, anything. Naomi slid over a flash drive. Already pulled their histories. Grant alone has 5 brutality complaints in 2 years, all swept under the rug. Monica's eyebrows rose. This isn't just a defense. This could crack open the whole department. The words felt like oxygen. But before Naomi could breathe relief, her phone buzzed again. This time it was Lena Park, the investigative journalist. I've got whistleblower files, Lena said briskly. Union payoffs, suppressed complaints. If you're ready, we can expose this together. Naomi hesitated. Her FBI clearance made this dangerous territory. But after yesterday, rules felt like cages. Send me everything. Tonight. That evening, Naomi returned to headquarters. Walking the corridors, she felt eyes on her, sympathetic glances from some, sidelong suspicion from others. Her badge still worked. For now. In her office, she logged into restricted databases, typing Officer Mark Grant. She opened a cascade of files. The pattern leapt off the screen. Vulnerable targets, escalated encounters, complaints filed and buried. Her chest tightened as she clicked download. Each file was a weapon. Each report another brick in the wall she was building against them. A knock at her door startled her. She minimized windows. Come in. It was Tom Chen, her longtime colleague. His voice was low, urgent. Naomi, you need to see this. He handed her his phone. An internal police memo glowed on the screen, marked for department use only. Naomi's stomach dropped as her eyes skimmed the words. Potential threat to officer safety, history of aggressive behavior, unstable under stress. They're rewriting your story, Tom said grimly. They're making you into the problem before any hearing. Naomi swallowed hard, jaw set. Then we rewrite theirs, with truth. She pulled up her own files, showing him the brutality complaints. Tom let out a low whistle. That's a powder keg, but be careful. When cornered, they'll get dirty. They already have, Naomi replied. Her voice was calm, but fire burned beneath. That night, Naomi picked up Ethan and Malik from their after-school program. Their chatter about math homework and playground games was a thin veil over the way their eyes darted nervously to every police cruiser they passed. Mom, Ethan whispered as they pulled into their street. Are those men following us? Naomi checked the mirror. A dark sedan 2 cars back. Standard issue. Police, but unmarked. She made 2 deliberate wrong turns. The sedan followed. Her heart pounded, but her voice stayed even. Just some people going the same way. By the time she parked, another unmarked car waited across from her house. 2 plainclothes men inside, staring openly. Naomi ushered her boys inside quickly, her hand brushing the grip of her concealed weapon. Homework time, she said brightly, masking her fury. Snacks in 5. Only once the door locked behind them did she let herself glance at the car again. She recognized one of the men from Grant's precinct. They weren't even trying to hide the surveillance. They wanted her to know she was being watched. Fine, she thought, setting her briefcase down on the dining table. Let them watch, because she had the truth, and the truth was a weapon sharper than any badge. Naomi Walker eased her SUV into the driveway. Her nerves coiled tight. Streetlights cast long shadows across the hood, the kind of shadows that made even safe neighborhoods feel dangerous. She'd taken 3 extra turns, doubled back twice, but the dark sedan kept trailing her. It was close now, headlights flicking across her rearview mirror like an accusation. She killed the engine, scanning the street. Silence. Too much silence. She reached for her phone to call her neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, making her voice as casual as possible. Are my boys still inside with you? Good. Keep them there until I knock. She ended the call and gripped the steering wheel harder. Doors slammed behind her. Heavy boots on asphalt. 3 men in black masks rushed from the shadows. moving with the precision of law enforcement training. Naomi exploded out of the SUV, slamming the door into the first man's chest. He staggered back, cursing. The second lunged for her throat, but she ducked, driving her elbow into his gut. "FBI, stand down!" she shouted, though she knew it was pointless. These weren't random thugs. This was sanctioned intimidation. The third attacker swung, his fist splitting her lip. Pain flared, metallic blood filling her mouth. She spun with the blow, planting her heel into his knee. A crack echoed. He dropped with a howl. From the Johnsons' window came the piercing scream of her son. "Mom!" The sound stabbed her heart, but she couldn't look. The first man was up again, baton raised. Naomi blocked, wrenched it from his grip, and drove her knee into his groin. He collapsed to the pavement. The second attacker clamped her from behind. She smashed her skull backward, bone meeting bone, and felt his nose break. Using his loosened hold, she launched forward, both feet slamming into the third man's chest. He slammed into her SUV with a grunt. Naomi twisted free, striking precise blows, throat, temple, knee, one by one. They crumpled. Her body screamed with pain, but all three lay groaning on the ground. Neighbors spilled onto porches. Phones filmed. Lights blinked on up and down the street. Mrs. Johnson held Ethan and Malik tight as they cried out for their mother. Red and blue lights flooded the block. Patrol cars screeched in far too quickly to be coincidence. Naomi steadied her breath, blood dripping from her lip onto her blouse, and raised her hands. "I'm FBI Special Agent Naomi Walker. I was just assaulted. Arrest them." But the officers who spilled out of the cruisers ignored the masked men writhing on the ground. Instead, Captain Douglas Pierce strode forward, his smirk illuminated by flashing lights. He held a sealed envelope in his hand. "Agent Walker," he said, emphasizing the title like a mockery. "Effective immediately, you're suspended, pending investigation into multiple incidents of violent conduct." Naomi's breath caught. She tore the envelope open with shaking fingers. The FBI seal glared up at her, cold words cutting deep, badge and credentials to be surrendered. All cases reassigned, full suspension until further review. Her vision blurred. "The men who attacked me," she started. "What men?" Pierce interrupted smoothly, gesturing around. Naomi spun. The attackers were gone. The dark sedan had vanished. Only the echo of her neighbor's whispers remained. Pierce tilted his head. "Looks like you had quite a fall in your driveway. You might want to get those injuries looked at." Naomi's ribs throbbed with each breath. Her badge, once a symbol of justice, felt like it burned against her hip. Pierce held out his hand. "Your badge, Agent Walker, or should I say, Miss Walker." Her heart pounded. Every sacrifice, every late night, every battle to prove herself, it all collapsed in a single night. With trembling hands, she unclipped the badge, placing it in his palm. "I want to file an assault report," she said, her voice shaking but determined. "Of course," Pierce smiled coldly. "Come by the station tomorrow. We'll take your statement about that fall." The officers turned back to their cruisers, leaving Naomi bleeding in the driveway, her children sobbing into her arms, neighbors whispering behind their phones. Inside, Ethan pressed his face to her shoulder. "Mom, they took your badge." Naomi held them tighter, her blood staining their pajamas. She looked out through the blinds at the empty street where her attackers had vanished. Every instinct told her the system she had defended for years had turned against her. That night, sleep was impossible. Every creak of the house set her nerves on edge. Headlines blared from her phone. FBI agent suspended after violent outburst. Mother or menace? They painted her as unstable, dangerous. Even her ex-husband's old words about her intensity during their divorce were recycled as evidence of mental strain. By morning, reporters camped outside the house. Cameras tracked her through the curtains. Social media swarmed with trolls calling her a threat, racists flooding every comment thread. The few who defended her were drowned in the noise. Ethan pushed away his cereal. "Mom, what if they come back?" Naomi crouched beside him, ignoring the stab of pain in her ribs. "Listen to me. Those men were cowards. They attacked in the dark because they're afraid of the truth. But we're not going to let them win." Her phone buzzed. A message from Monica Harris, her lawyer. "Turn on the news. Now." Naomi grabbed the remote. The screen filled with Captain Pierce at a press podium, his voice dripping false concern. "We are deeply troubled by Agent Walker's pattern of aggression. First, the unprovoked attack on 2 officers. Then, erratic conduct reported by witnesses. Last night's violent episode at her residence raises serious questions about her fitness for duty." Grainy cell phone footage filled the screen, but it had been edited. Only her strikes shown, none of the masked men's attacks. The caption read, "FBI agent's violent breakdown." Naomi's hands clenched into fists. The physical pain was nothing compared to this. The betrayal, the twisting of truth, the erasure of her humanity. Her calls to the Bureau went unanswered. Colleagues she trusted went silent. Even her superiors sent her to voicemail. By nightfall, the house felt like a besieged fortress. Curtains drawn, locks double-checked, every passing car making her flinch. Ethan and Malik clung to her longer at bedtime, whispering promises they'd still see her as their superhero, no matter what the world said. Alone in the bathroom, Naomi studied her reflection. Bruises bloomed purple along her jaw, her lips swollen, her ribs aching. The woman staring back at her seemed smaller, diminished without the badge. She leaned closer to the mirror, breath fogging the glass. "They want me broken," she whispered. "But they picked the wrong mother." Straightening her spine, Naomi wiped the blood from her lip, grabbed her phone, and started dialing. Monica Harris, Lena Park, Reverend Allen, allies who still believed. If the system wanted to bury her, she would dig deeper. If they wanted to erase her, she would write herself larger than ever before. The badge was gone, but the fight had just begun. The community center buzzed like a storm gathering strength. Every seat was filled, people lining the walls and spilling into the hallway. News cameras blinked red lights along the back wall. Naomi Walker stood near the front, bruises concealed beneath a navy blazer, her heart steady despite the throb in her ribs. At the podium, Union President Frank Dalton adjusted his tie and smiled like a man who believed he still controlled the room. "These allegations," he declared, voice booming into the microphone, "are nothing but social media hysteria. Our officers acted appropriately when confronted by an aggressive individual. Agent Walker has a history of instability." "That's a lie," Naomi's voice cut through the murmurs. She rose, holding a thick folder high for all to see. "And I can prove it." Dalton's smile faltered. "Miss Walker, you're out of order. This forum has procedures." "Like the procedures you use to bury brutality complaints?" Naomi strode down the aisle, her words sharp, relentless. 17 cases vanished from your files. Victims paid off. Voices silenced. March 15th. Officer Grant assaulted a teenage boy. Complaint disappeared. April 3rd. He harassed an elderly couple. Lost paperwork. June 7th. A domestic violence victim called for help and got threats instead. She was paid $10,000 to stay silent. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones shot up, recording every word. Naomi climbed onto the stage, laying document after document across the podium. Bank transfers, witness statements, internal memos. "It's all here," she said, her voice carrying the weight of truth. "Names, dates, signatures, a culture of brutality and corruption that's been protected by this union for decades." "Security," Dalton barked, panic leaking into his voice. "Remove her." But before anyone could move, the back doors slammed open. 3 officers in tactical gear stormed in, the same men who had ambushed her in her driveway. The crowd screamed, Cameras swung toward the commotion. The first officer lunged. Naomi met him head-on, pivoting with his momentum and flipping him over the podium. He crashed into the front row. Gasps turned into cheers. The second swung a baton. Naomi caught it mid-arc, twisted, and swept his legs. He hit the stage hard. The third, larger than the rest, grabbed her from behind. She dropped her weight, broke his grip, and drove an elbow into his ribs. He doubled over, wheezing. Phones filmed everything. Every strike, every block, every takedown. The world would see it uncut this time. Naomi stood tall over the groaning men. "This is what they do," she shouted, voice ringing like a verdict. "They use force to silence the truth, but not anymore." The crowd erupted. "Naomi! Naomi!" The chant thundered against the rafters. Reporters swarmed the stage. Microphones thrust forward. "Agent Walker, how long have you been investigating? Did they target you because you had evidence?" Naomi faced the cameras squarely. "Everything you need to know is in these files. The evidence speaks for itself. No more cover-ups. No more silence." The chant grew louder. Reverend Allen stood in the crowd, nodding proudly. Monica Harris gathered the scattered papers into evidence bags. Lena Park live-streamed the moment, her voice trembling with awe. By dawn, the headlines were everywhere. FBI agent exposes police corruption, union president flees, DOJ launches probe, helicopters circled downtown as federal agents raided the police union headquarters. Officer Grant and his partner were led out in handcuffs, their faces twisted with rage. Dalton himself was caught hours later at a private airstrip, a suitcase of cash in his trunk. Naomi watched it all from her kitchen table. Ethan and Malik pressed to her sides, cereal bowls forgotten as the TV replayed her confrontation over and over. On screen, she stood tall, documents in hand. 3 officers sprawled at her feet. "Mom," Ethan whispered, eyes wide with pride. "You're trending." His tablet lit up with hashtags. Our justice for Naomi. Naomi, the protector. Malik grinned, tugging her sleeve. "See? I told you you're a superhero." Later that evening, her FBI supervisor called. "Carter, Walker." Director Williams corrected himself, voice formal but softened. "The Bureau wants to reinstate you. Full clearance, back pay, accommodations. We should have backed you from the start." Naomi stepped onto the back porch, phone pressed to her ear. Through the window, she saw her boys playing a video game, laughing freely for the first time in weeks. "Sir," she said quietly, "I appreciate the offer, but this was never about the badge. It's about mothers like me, about children who should never have to fear a uniform." A long silence stretched. Finally, William sighed. "Whatever you decide, you have my respect." Naomi ended the call and looked up at the darkening sky. For the first time in weeks, sirens in the distance didn't make her flinch. A week later, she returned to Henderson Park. The same fountain sparkled in the sun, the same field spread wide. But this time, families waved as she passed. An elderly man nodded respectfully. A little girl whispered, "That's her!" Ethan and Malik raced ahead, begging for ice cream before football. Mr. Rodriguez at the cart refused her money, eyes warm. "You showed my granddaughters what courage looks like," he said softly. Naomi sat at their favorite picnic table, savoring vanilla while her boys smeared chocolate across their faces. A young girl approached shyly, basketball in hand. "Are you really the FBI agent who fought the bad cops?" Naomi smiled gently. "I'm just a mom who wants her kids safe." The girl's eyes shone. "My mom says you're a hero. Can Ethan and Malik come play with us?" Naomi nodded. Her boys dashed off, their laughter echoing across the grass. As the sun dipped low, families gathered in impromptu games of football and tag, voices mingling in joy instead of fear. Ethan caught a firefly, showing it to Malik before setting it free. Their faces glowed in the twilight. Naomi leaned back on the bench, the golden light washing over her. The badge was gone, but the power had never been in the metal. It had always been in truth, in courage, in the love she carried for her boys. She whispered to the fading sky, "No one will ever cage us again." And for the first time, it felt true. I hope you felt the power of Naomi Walker's story. If you believe truth should always win over corruption, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because the next story you won't want to miss.